This place looks fantastic, Victoria. How'd you make the transition?
I love it here. I love the baking. I love the flower arranging.
They retire us.
You can't just flip a switch and become someone else.
What are we supposed to do?
I do take the odd contract on the side. I just can't stop.
Man, what's this trend with old ass killers these days? I mean, we had the what are they?
Expendables,
and now we got these old motherfuckers.
These are like the expirables.
I know. Expendables is just like your dad killing a bunch of people, but this is like your granddad.
Well, it's more like the Dependables because they're using Depends.
I was wondering when somebody was going to use that.
Well, you want to know more? You got it right here.
Well, I keep thinking,
you know what? That's what he does.
Well, all I keep thinking is like, is Hollywood really running out of story ideas and actors to put in their action films these days?
Clearly,
because it's like, we're having to go. It's almost like with the whole toy industry, we're having to go back to the '80s to bring back all this shit because that's the shit that worked, and especially with this cast that we're dealing with here.
I know.
That being said, you can't tell me you weren't a little excited when you saw Helen Mirren firing a machine gun in the trailer. You were like, that's Helen Mirren, who has no business firing a machine gun. Wow, I kind of want to see that.
I think hearing about it in concept is a lot more exciting than actually seeing it. Like, actually watching, you're like, Helen Mirren firing a machine gun, that's awesome. You watch, it's like, well, it's an old lady with a rifle, there's no way she can even pick up.
all I was thinking was like, what's Queen Elizabeth doing holding that gun?
Now that would be fucking hot. A movie about Queen Elizabeth in a bikini going out firing a machine gun, for country and all that kind of shit.
Queen Justice.
Yeah. Exactly.
Is this opposite day? Because that doesn't sound anything like hot.
This is some weird use of the word hot. I'm unfamiliar with.
It must be a hipster ironic hot.
I bitch out the machine gun. Fuck tea time.
Meat bullets.
But it would be hot if it's Helen Mirren as the queen in a bikini.
That's right.
I think I really, and I mean this. I joke around a lot about older women, and you look at Helen Mirren in the face, you'd be like, there's no way. But I guarantee you, she come to your house and take off that overcoat, and she got on that hot bikini like you seen that bikini. I mean, and those funnels. I'd like
those funnels. Wait, those funnels where they keep sour milk.
Those tube socks with a billiard ball.
The ones you use to keep crows and bad spirits away. You mean?
These guys gave me tequila before. so
dried up old crap.
So between the thought of Helen Mirren in a bikini and the tequila, I'm not making too much sense right now.
All I'm thinking about is the creepy old lady from The Shining right now.
Yeah. You mentioned Helen Mirren in a bikini again. I'm gonna take a break to throw up.
You know what? I like seeing her firing a machine gun, but I gotta cut you off right there when you start talking.
Have you not seen that photo of her in a bikini?
On that day, I wasn't really looking for that.
I was. I'll send you a photo.
Go through Corey's Google search.
I mean, it's nothing but Helen Mirren, Betty White.
I see you take your computer to get worked on. He's like, you didn't find any underage porn on there, did you? It's like, no, quite the opposite.
But isn't that one of the problems with this movie is that the trailer really sells it? Like, hey, here's an action movie with a bunch of people, with the exception of Bruce Willis, you would never really expect to see in an action movie.
Who are really good actors.
Venerable actors, like John Malkovich and
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. You're like, okay, this actually could be a lot of fun. But when it comes down to it, these guys can't do an action film because they are, in fact, pretty goddamn old.
Well,
the movie's a lot of talking and not a lot of doing.
Well, you mentioned something here. You said that this movie, which is based on a DC comic,
very loosely,
and this brings my point here, is based on a DC comic, which I didn't know anything about it. I was listening to you talk about it before, and I'm glad you did, because you said that this was something that it wasn't a team. It was one guy. It was a very violent comic about one guy going up against a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so looking at this movie, we talk about how old these people are, but Bruce Willis, we still see Bruce Willis as, I've never really seen Bruce Willis as old.
Oh, I still see him as John McClane.
Yeah, exactly.
How long ago was that Die Hard movie? Has it been 20 years
when
yet?
He shaves his head, he can pass, which is all the time now. He can pass for a guy 15, 20 years.
Yeah, and he has a history. Yeah, and he has a history of action films to go by. I mean, now I've seen Morgan Freeman as a pimp. And maybe if he was that same character in this movie, that might be a different thing. But Helen Mirren, Morgan Freeman, even John Malkovich to a certain extent, even though he's been a crazy supervillain in some movies, I don't see the rest of them as action people.
It's been a long time since John Malkovich was in, when he did In the Line of Fire, where he was that crazy supervillain.
And he was in Con Air.
Yeah, right. Yeah, 20-something years, if not longer. And even Bruce Willis. I mean, when this movie opened up, when it's mostly about Bruce Willis, I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, for an older guy, he's kept himself in decent shape, but I'm not seeing him as any kind of action star. He looked old to me up until they put Morgan Freeman and John Malkovich on screen with him, and suddenly he seemed like a kid.
Oh, yeah. The funny thing is, like...
That's probably why because they weren't in the original story, that's why they put those characters in this movie, just to make him look young.
No, it's funny because I'm like, okay, Morgan Freeman, okay, that's the guy who used to educate kids on the electric company.
Right.
They're making him into an action star. You might as well tell me that they're going to go grab Cowboy Curtis and turn him into... Oh, wait.
Morgan Freeman was a badass pimp at one point, but I'm just
true.
saying,
Oh, no.
But I mean, like, if you had this about the original comic book, which was about one man getting revenge against the CIA because of a bureaucratic incident, basically somebody at the top saying, you know what, all those black ops people we have that were total badasses, they know too much about what we've done, and we just need to take them off the books. We need to send out our teams after them. The original book being about this one guy who's like, yeah, you made a mistake there, bureaucratic guy, because now I'm going to kill absolutely everyone. Yes, Bruce Willis would have been a great choice for that. A retired, used to be total badass, who's a little bit crazy doing that. But here, it's like all people could see was the comedic possibilities. Like, well, Bruce Willis is kind of old. Why don't we throw a bunch of other old people in there too? And fuck it, let's just make the entire thing a farce. Except it's not really that funny.
Yeah, and see, that's what I was thinking. I mean, we're sitting up here making fun of these people as being older and, not even older, just old, And,
they're old.
Yeah, they're old, and I don't mind that. I think that's actually a really good take on what we perceive as the action hero today, and I think that's why a lot of people are doing it, because we kind of, we run the gambit with all of our action heroes today. But the fact that they did put it in a farce, these old people don't really do anything action oriented. We don't get to see them be the badasses that they once were. Why? Because they're too busy being funny.
And they're too busy talking about the goddamn good old days. Where it's like everything is like, remember back when we used to do that? I'm like, oh. I feel like I'm at a nursing home right now with the lady who trapped me and like telling me about her old stories.
The thing is, there is comedy that works. I mean, like, John Malkovich's character is genuinely pretty funny. He's like the super paranoid guy who's like, thinks the government is constantly watching him, and he is technically right in this particular aspect, in this particular story. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's kind of a lunatic, and a lot of the bits with him really do hit home. Helen Mirren is one of the few people who actually gets to show off being kind of a badass, but with a sniper rifle, my 6-year-old niece could be a badass if you had
anybody with a rifle. So
it's just in the context of the story, but the way it's edited together, I mean, there's like all these like they should smack a postcard on the screen that's animated for every new place they're constantly going to, and with like goofy music, like wah 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 wah.
Well, you know what I was going to talk about that. Well, you said what the movie was in context to the comic book. It's changed drastically for the movie, but the premise is still somewhat there. Bruce Willis plays an ex-CIA operative who is getting hunted down by the same agency he used to work for, and he doesn't know why. He wants to know who is coming after him and for what reason. So to do that, he goes back and gets his old teammates together, who were also at one time really badass assassins, weapon experts, killers, even though they're sweet, lovely, tea-sipping old people right now, are perverted, nasty black men who like to look at people bend over and show their asses when they're changing the TV.
That's going to be you.
Just every black man, right?
That's pretty much every black man, yeah.
That is every black man. I will be that old guy in the old folks' home. Sit up there poking them with my cane in the ass.
Yes, will be. Shit, your ass goes to nursing homes now and throws things on the floor and say, "Hey, sweetheart, could you get that for me?"
But he's asking the patient, not the nurses.
I'm in there. Could you help me find my grandfather? And I throw here's the address. Oh, I dropped that. But now the humor though is what really saves the film, because this movie, I had a hard time thinking about it. And I was like, why is it that I like this movie less than something else that I saw that wasn't even really that good when I saw it before. And
was it a shit you took that morning? Because I thought that was better than this movie.
Goddamn. Not exactly. By some people's standards, though, it was a piece of shit, even though I didn't think it was that bad. And the movie I'm talking about is the one with Tom Cruise and
Night and Day.
Night and Day. And what was her name? Cameron Diaz.
Right.
And the reason why I didn't mind Night and Day that much is because Night and Day was completely stupid. And didn't mind doing that. And some of the action in that was cool. Now here, the humor, I think, is something that kind of helps push this movie along, which is also the detriment to the film. But it's things like the music in it. It's that bad TV action movie music that they're playing here. That
it's the Seinfeld soundtrack. The guy who worked on Seinfeld finally found another job, and this movie was it. Because that was annoying because every time John Malkovich did anything, you'd hear this goofy music playing. Like I was like, is this guy supposed to be Kramer or something, or what's going on? But the thing is, it was almost like a laugh track throughout this whole movie.
Yeah.
And it just annoyed you.
Funny. You know what? You guys are right. It just felt like, whereas the Expendables was the movie versions of all those characters getting together, this was like the version of TV characters getting together. Man, nothing annoys me like a movie that's trying to be funny and not. And this movie wasn't funny to me at all. The movie it reminded me of was that Captain Heigl movie, The Killers, where they had like all the neighbors turn out to be assassins also. And then in here, they just kept pulling that same bit.
Don't forget about the really important subplot in this film dealing with the really hot old chick from Weeds.
Oh, she ain't old, man.
She old, come on.
You just told me she's like almost
I said she's
60.
older. Mary Louise Parker, who's almost 50, who I thought she was in her 30s.
Damn. She's gorgeous.
She's gorgeous, and she's a great comedian, and she's one of the few things that saved this movie.
And the thing is,
compared to the rest of the cast.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But see, that's one of the things that annoyed me right off the bat. Like the whole thing where these guys are hunting Bruce Willis, and he's talking to her over the phone, so almost practically, having a phone sex with her, and decides like, hey, come along with me, even though guys are killing me. She's like, oh, stop it. Oh, okay, let's go. It's like, man, you're not going to help me believe in this at all?
I don't think it was like that.
Problem with that, because the premise that we start from the beginning is that she's somebody she's totally bored with her life. I mean, this isn't anything new. We've seen this before.
No,
she's so bored with her life.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Captain Heigl, The Killers.
She's dying for something exciting to happen. She reads novels about exactly this all the time. That's a big plot point. So when it actually happens to her, of course she buys into it.
And she didn't really go
with that at all.
and she didn't really go along willingly. I mean, it fits the goofy tone of the film. I had more problems than with the movie other than that.
Where are we? How did we get to New York City? Wow, I really hate you right now.
Just hoping you'd be a little more understanding of the situation.
I was hoping not to get kidnapped or drugged. I was hoping you'd have hair. So it looks like none of our dreams are coming true at the moment.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for saving me, I guess.
No problem.
Not my best first date. Not my worst, either.
She's pretty much playing the same character that Cameron Diaz and Katherine Heigl did in those two previous movies we were talking about. Because there is a moment where she starts to get really excited about all the craziness that being an ex-killer comes with as far as that world, and she gets really into it, and so much more that I found it kind of hard to really buy into that.
I actually think that this movie, if you were to strip it of its soundtrack, of its Foley, of the visual stuff they added on after the fact, it would actually be a pretty entertaining little spoof film.
Yeah.
But there's a term to make it into some ultra farce. Like, we're just kidding. This could never happen. Look at these funny old people with guns. That it's just irritating. It is exactly like Koho said. It's a really annoying laugh track at this point in history when we're like, we don't need that. We can make up our own mind whether or not this is fun.
And you're right about that. And I agree with you. And to a certain degree, I agree with you. I nitpick about those things myself about, hey, there's no circumstance here when people go and destroy a whole town. But the reason why being that it is sort of a spoof, I was able to let go of some implausible things. And they also had Carl Urban, who was trailing them, who I just thought because they are being chased by the CIA, we don't need to see every time they cover their tracks. I'm just assuming that they do, and I don't need to know the details. And Carl Urban is an actor that I like. I just think they set him up as an unlikable person too early in the movie.
Boy, they set him. It set him up as a patsy in this movie, and I mean like the actor himself, because he just gets to do nothing but growl, get his ass kicked by Bruce Willis. Okay, get on him here, and never be effectual at anything at all.
He's a plot device.
Yeah, I just felt sorry because I was like, I never really liked him until he did Star Trek. I was like, hey, I like this guy. I can't wait to see what he's going to do here. And I felt like, wah wah.
You know what though? Saying all that though, it was funny to me how he became the most interesting character at the end of the movie, to where I was really kind of rooting for him. At the end of it, I was like, you know, I really, at this point, I don't care what happens to any of these other characters.
At the same time, is that you've got a whole movie where you're pretty much the only nemesis you know is devoid of depth outside of knowing he has a wife and kids. Mm-hmm. That's really all we know about him. And then suddenly at the end, they want to pull that out of their ass and pull a giant personality change out of their ass for him to make him likable and interesting. I was like, you know what? That's just it. He is just a plot device. He is something to bring you around and win you over for when they don't have a real ending. They just didn't have it.
You know what? He acted his ass off because it worked.
That's sad because I didn't see that because I walked out of this movie. I was just like, wow, I just could not give less of a shit about what happens in this thing. Well, I absolutely hated it. And now to hear, like, when you say like he had an arc, I was like, oh, too bad I missed it. But then Cyrus, you tell me how it's just kind of crowbarred in there. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I walked out because it would have made me hate it even more.
It is. You know, it's a typical, I have the wife and kids, but again, that's typical of all these movies. I like Carl Urban in this film. Like I said, I just thought he was set up as not only a pansy, but an unlikable character because he is a pansy at the beginning of this movie. I like where they were trying to send him. And I like the actor. I wish this was a better movie for him.
Me too.
Even though I don't think that was fake that he's got his ass kicked by Bruce Willis. I think they just put the camera on that shit. I don't give a fuck who you are. Next time I tell you to bring me some coffee, bring me some goddamn coffee.
I'm sorry, but if I had scars,
get this shit. Hey, start the camera.
If I had scars from where Bruce Willis beat me up, I would show them to everyone I knew. I would go to bars and use them to pick up chicks.
Oh hell yeah! You know,
like see this is where Bruce Willis kicked the shit out.
Shit,
you will finally have a cool story to tell. Cyrus.
I know.
Yeah,
you wouldn't even have to be like, listen, my scar. Like, oh, here's a trailer on TV. That's where Bruce Willis really kicked my ass.
That's not fake. He beat the crap out of me.
Isn't that cool?
It was in traction.
This movie, Red, I knew where it was going the whole time. It's like, goddamn. Like, not only have I been here before in life, but just this year, like, how many of these, you know, this kind of like, hey, we're bringing the old killers and the old assassins back together. And it's like The Expendables was sort of the best one just by default.
Yeah.
Not by much, but it's like, okay, here we got really good actors, like Oscar caliber actors. We have it based on a comic book written by a writer that everyone respects.
Warren Ellis?
Yeah. One of the best guys working in comics. I don't know who.
Somebody out there going, who?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't know who directed it, and even though I would see this trailer and go like, yeah, I don't like the way this is going, but it's like, hey, trailers lie, whatever. They had all the resources to make this a really good movie. And of all these types of movies that came out this year, it was probably at the bottom for me. I'd rather even watch The Losers before I'd watch this.
Yeah, I think it's probably about even with The Losers for me. Even though Losers had a little bit more action, it's because
like I give Losers credit just because like it's like, okay, it was a comic I didn't like, and you know it just had a bunch of people who were like, okay, I don't expect much from them.
And let me tell you something, man. I really the thing that upset me the most is the way they used Morgan Freeman in the film.
Yes.
I thought you get somebody in that movie. First of all, the way his story turns out in this film, and the fact that he's just wasted. This guy's supposed to be a ruthless killer. And I'm just like, Negro, stop smiling so fucking much. I mean, it's like you just look at the camera. Well, it's time to stop dying.
Dude,
I
hate that when they have people who are supposed to be cold-blooded assassins, but they want to make them lovable. Like, stop it.
He looked like he was just happy to be working. He's like,
oh,
God damn, camera's on me again.
You killed.
Time to shine.
Yeah, you fucking kill. No, you don't look like you should be killing somebody. You look like you should be shining somebody's shoes right now. Just fucking grinning, all right. I mean, I love Morgan Freeman, but he's making me mad in this movie.
Well, he did give me a killer shine. I could see my face in my shoes once he was done.
Yeah, I think he patted everyone on the shoulder at least 3 times in this movie with a big smile. You old friend. Oh God, I love hanging out with my buddies. Man, but yeah, I mean, it seemed, you know, yeah.
He's back in Driving Miss Daisy again. You know,
that man's a killer. He gave me a killer shoe shine.
I was surprised Miss Daisy didn't show up at the end with M60, but
I know. I was surprised he didn't drive everybody around. You know,
on the DVD commentary, it'll tell you how it took us 3 days to get him to stop calling us boss.
But no, it did seem like he was like, is this guy like working on 2 other movies or something? Because he would just come in and out of the movie like in a different costume. Like, hey, time to work.
Did you just want Clint Eastwood to show up at some point and just go, cut it out?
Yeah. Morgan, what are you doing? Let's get out of here.
He'd end up killing the director because he's like,
I know, it's like,
hey, you just killed that director. Well, he should have armed himself. He was going to abuse my friend.
I know, it's a terrible thing to make a crappy action film.
He comes in and sits at the table. We're getting the band back together. Well, that's it. They're like, you got 2 more pages done. No, I don't. I got lunch. Come back. No, you know what? I give this movie, this is get right down to it because we talked enough. And the problems that the movie had that I mentioned, they did bother me. The music, thinking about it right now, is just grating my nerves. The goofy tone of the film was annoying at moments. And the fact that I've seen this type of movie several times in such a short span of time, that didn't help either. But I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy these actors at certain points in the film and the way they comedically interacted with each other and some of their performances. It looked like they were having a good time. And that was enough to bring the movie up to a high rental.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you, because there were parts, some of the characters I genuinely liked. I really liked John Malkovich in this a lot. I agree with you guys, Morgan Freeman might as well not have even been in this film. He's so misused, embarrassingly misused here.
Yeah.
I really liked Helen Mirren when she finally joins the cast, and I like Bruce Willis in it. So I'm going to give it a high rental. But even then, it's, I mean, this is ultimately pretty goddamn forgettable.
Yeah, it is.
Shit, I ain't gonna forget it. You know what? Malkovich might have made me smile a couple of times, but it took him so far over the top that I just couldn't laugh. I was just like, wow, this is embarrassing even for him. He's done some low stuff too. And plus, those fucked up teeth of his. That's all I could look at whenever he was talking.
Shut up about that for like a week after.
I was like, man, what is up with that dude's grill? But seriously, like I said, of the 6 movies we've seen, I thought this was the worst one. It had all the potential to be something better. This is the only movie this year that I have just got up and walked out of because I'm like, I've had enough of this.
Oh, you walked out?
Yeah, I was like, I was just sitting there. I was like, you know what? I don't give a shit what happens. I don't care about the outcome. I'm not enjoying this. This is a waste of my time, a waste of everybody's money. They took advantage of whoever produced this. They took a check and signed it and all ate lunch and shot it all in one day, as far as I'm concerned.
No wonder Morgan Freeman was smiling.
Yeah, I told you.
I didn't realize that was why you left. I thought your scene was coming up in the movie.
I thought you had to take a shit.
No, the shit was on the screen. To me, it was a fuck you. I'll just compromise and say it's some old bullshit.
Damn.
It's some old bullshit to me.
Okay, I thought you said it was a fuck you.
To me, in my heart, it's a fuck you.
I waited for you an hour in the parking lot. Tell somebody when you leave next time.
Wait, I'm confused.
Oh, sorry.
I know what your heart's saying, but what are you saying?
I'm just giving it some old bullshit.
Why you gotta do that, man? It's like the 3rd time you've given like 2 ratings.
Hell yeah. I ain't making this simple for nobody. I have to bring out my mobile crime unit to figure this out.
But, well, that probably would have been a far more entertaining movie than this. But I have to admit, when I walked out of the theater, I did like it. I was smiling about it, but about 20 minutes later, I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
I did enjoy some of the performances. Even Morgan Freeman. I mean, that guy had such a great set of choppers. I mean, how can you not enjoy that?
I love looking
on
at
the
that
big
guy's
screen. Yeah. All I think is like, look at Lucius, man. Lucius, he's working. But other than that, it was complete. It was pretty forgettable. I didn't really care too much. As much as I love that chick from Weeds, I thought they really gave her little to do. It seems like the further the story went along, the less her character had to do.
Yeah, somebody forgot about her at some point.
She just became a non-character.
She did. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a rental.
I tell you something though. You think these guys are old? They brought out people that, and I'm being serious, I'm not making a joke, I thought were dead.
Oh, Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine. I was like,
yeah, he literally is almost 100.
Yeah, seriously.
I could not believe he was there. I was like, they've got to have him on like a cart or something as they're moving.
He looked good too.
He did. I mean, the dude looked like he's 80, but considering that he's like 150, it's not that bad. It's like, wow, you look great. I'm thinking, fuck it. For the next film, Just make a fucking movie about that guy. We want to go old. Let's go old. You know, get him fucking Betty White.
Let's be fair. They can't go too much farther, like forward anymore with the actors' ages without just having a bunch of coffins on screen. But they'll probably go the other way and they'll get a bunch of child actors with guns. Like these are a bunch of kids and they're reincarnated from.
You know, fuck that. I like your idea about the coffins.
Red
Now you're
babies.
thinking coffins with guns, dude, running around the city going hog wild.
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, you guys think back to like a movie like Harry Brown, where you had an old guy who was, going back to his violent ways. But yeah, it ruled. And like Michael Caine handled that in a way you're like, hey, he is old. It's harder for him to get around, but he's still scary. He's still effective.
Oh yeah, he's a true badass.
That was his Unforgiven role right there.
And guy handled it, and you believe that he can handle a weapon, do everything about guns and everything. So
they're like a bunch of old Hollywood actors.
Of course, if you go older, you won't need guns. Have Betty White come in and just flash her titties at somebody. They'll turn those guns on themselves. Oh my God!
Hey, out of all the old chicks, I think Betty White's pretty hot. And on top of that, she's funny too.
Well, I'd be the only guy with my rifle still intact. I'd be the one still staring to the plot.
Sonny, is that a gun in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? It's both, actually.
Very happy to see you.
Don't you think we ought to discuss the fact that the CIA is being used as a hit squad? And they'll do whatever they can to find us and kill us?
We're getting the band back together.